The sun is pitiless in Madagascar, and to avoid the worst of the heat, the day begins early in the town of Maranchesh. By 6 a.m., Stefan's local bush taxi is already fully booked. Every week he takes the road to Tamatave, the country's second city. It's a primitive route that severely tests the vehicle's suspension, and every kilo counts. Stefan charges extra for any excess luggage. Everyone on board. Fitting everyone into the bag is a real headache. How many passengers? We'll make room for everyone. Everyone will get on. Soon, if we can organize ourselves, because some are getting off at the next town. My license says for 15 passengers, but there's more. 19 or 20 maybe. I need them, because there's a lot of sliding about, and each passenger has some rope which they pull. That's why. There'll be a need for some strong arms. Only four-wheel drive vehicles can tackle the N5, National Route 5, one of the most challenging in Madagascar. The 20 passengers can look forward to a testing journey. Once on the open road, what lies ahead becomes abundantly clear. There are a few bumps. Huge potholes. But this is a four-wheel drive. I love it when my SUV slides about. I love my wife, and I love my work. Damn, I slid. You feel that? I'm going to accelerate, and then you'll feel the road. Yeah, it's a bit shaky. Passengers on the padded seats have paid a little more, but they suffer no less than those crammed in the back. Everyone gets carsick. I'm sick. My stomach hurts. I need to go to the toilet. One uncomfortable hour later, and the road claims its first victims. She can't take it. She needs to throw up. So that's why she's getting off. Ahead lies 250 kilometers of dirt track. Situated in the Indian Ocean, Madagascar is almost the size of Texas, and its road network has not been improved since independence more than 50 years ago. The N5, for example, that connects Maranchesh to Tamatave. I think we'll have fun. We're going to be dancing. Where's that rope? Bridge is dancing. I hate this road. We'll never get there. I can't take it anymore. The N5, or rather the dirt track, winds its way through breathtaking countryside. But the postcard images are under threat. The forest has been pillaged for its valuable wood, in particular rosewood. We know it's illegal. It's theft. But we have to live somehow. It takes 9 days to bring back one of the trunks. Some weigh as much as 500 kilos. The trunk moves at a huge speed. If it hits us, we're dead for sure. Made it! Still alive! After hurtling down the mountainside, the wood is then transported on makeshift rafts. The force of the current has killed more than one guy transporting wood. On the other side of the country, another treasure attracts the poor: sapphires. With no bed and only one pot. We don't have a single penny. Thousands dig away, all with the same dream. Find a sapphire and become a millionaire. The promise of a better life might be lying just under their feet, 50 meters down. We run the risk of being killed just for some stones. Many will never find even the smallest sapphire. It's collapsing. You're going to kill us all. Deep in the last primeval jungles of Madagascar lies the small village of Tenra. The nearest shop is a day's canoe ride away. But the locals aren't too concerned. They are self-sufficient, living from hunting, fishing, and agriculture. They use money to buy tools, clothes, or ammunition. The problem is getting it without taking any risks. It'll be a fantastic adventure. Very difficult, but you just need to prepare for it. It'll be exhausting. We'll cross the river, we'll climb rocks, and walk through the forest. Mustn't forget the food. We won't survive in the forest otherwise. Come on, guys, get your bags ready. Robert, age 39, is one of the few villagers who ever had a proper job. He used to be a forest ranger. He protected the forest from those seeking to plunder its precious woods. But 4 years ago, he was fired. The gamekeeper turned poacher is now a smuggler of rosewood. It's a rare tree, much valued by the Chinese. When we found out that rosewood was selling for a good price, we started cutting some, so we could start earning a living again. Ahead lies a 9-day journey, during which they'll play hide-and-seek with the police. The tree is so much in demand that it's close to extinction and has been officially protected for the past 3 years. Come on, let's step on it. My whole body's straining, the arms, the legs will need a lot of energy. Come on, push harder. It's not only smugglers that are looking for rosewood. Thugs have also been attracted to the forest. This road is dangerous. Passengers have been attacked here. Anything can happen, but it's the only way to get through. The local bureaucrats have never agreed to build a road for cars. They wanted to stop the traffic of rosewood. Mind out. Carrying packs weighing 50 kilos and barefoot, they now face a cliff. After a harrowing two-day march, the group spots other traffickers. Robert is concerned they may have felled the last of the rosewood trees. You think there's still some wood left? Yes, you'll find some. I don't need to go too far from the river, though, right? No, not far. Well, let's see if we can find some. Good luck to you. Safe travels. We all know it's illegal. It's theft. But we really need to make a living. Everything is so expensive here. School for the kids, feeding them, medicine. The next morning, they hope to find a huge rosewood tree. The beaches on this part of the island are heavenly, but there are no tourists. No travel agency would risk having their clients travel along such an exhausting and dangerous road. The bridge, for example, has never been properly repaired. Oh, we're not going to be able to cross this. It's broken. The structure's no good. We'll have to go around it. I've already fallen in here. I climbed up, and then right away it sank. The back of my vehicle was in the water. The hood was sort of up in the air. You see, it's rotten. Stefan would rather not tempt fate, and so drives across the river. So as not to sink too deep, he asks his passengers to get out. I asked them to step out because it's not safe. I've had enough of this trip. I'm exhausted. According to the authorities, the road is in deliberately poor condition to hinder the transport of precious woods. If the road were flat, the smugglers would use large trucks, they say. It's an effective weapon, but it also slows down the entire region's economy. Every bridge is a test. That bridge is rather worrying. It's been repaired, but not properly. And when you're on it, it dances around like crazy. It's risky, it's dangerous, not worth trying. But some vehicles nevertheless do try, to Stefan's amusement. I've got a feeling we'll have some fun. They'll be dancing. Stefan prefers to take the ferry. It's less risky, he claims. I'm not going on that bridge. During an earlier journey, one of the planks in the bridge collapsed under his wheels, causing one of Stefan's passengers to be seriously injured when he fell out. Ever since, Stefan has preferred crossing on this makeshift ferry. But the slightest mistake will cost him dearly. Oh, you want me to fall in the water? Huh? Stefan was too slow getting on board the raft. The luggage at the back will get soaked. Reverse! I'm too far ahead already. Damn. That's it. We'll be really late now. The whole engine is in the water. The journey may end here. Stefan isn't sure how to get his vehicle out. After 6 days in the depths of the forest, Robert and his men have found their treasure. If they can get this rosewood tree out, they should make enough money to see them through the next 4 to 6 months. A trunk can fetch as much as $5,000. Which way should we chop it down? That way? There's lots of trees here. It'll be complicated, but let's try that way. The trees grow extremely slowly and take at least 100 years to fully develop. Looking at this tree, I would say it was 50 or 60 years old. I cut through the bark like this and lift up the lighter part here. And the heart of the tree, if it's rose-colored, it means it's a good tree. Just one more swing of the axe. It takes 1 hour to chop down the giant worth its weight in gold. But this one will play a nasty trick. We've got a slight problem. The tree hasn't fallen completely over. It's stuck in the branches of the other trees around it. We've got to find a way to bring it down. The only way to bring it down is to chop down the trees around it. It's estimated that for every 100,000 precious trees that are chopped down, another 500,000 are sacrificed in this way. All we want is the rosewood tree. But now we need to cut down a dozen, maybe more, other trees. There's no choice when it's like this. It's all stuck. The task is enormous, and Robert changes tactics. Cut the trunk at this height, and that way the other part, where it's caught, will also come straight down. Chopping the tree at that height is increasingly difficult. The men will need to sweat to earn their money. Come on, we'll take it in turns. We need everyone to pitch in. This will take a while yet. For hours, the men pass the axe around. The heat is overbearing. The homemade axe has broken apart. The blade slid down the handle and hit my finger, and it hurts, but I'll be okay. Sometimes the blade hits your head or your legs. If you get seriously hurt, there's no medicine or bandages. We treat it with the resin from the rosewood tree. We use the bark to make a bandage. Thank you, rosewood tree. After 4 hours, the first part of the trunk gives way. But the branches are still trapping the top of the tree. They try to pull it down by force. But after another 6 hours, Robert decides to give up. Without the rest of the tree trunk, it won't bring in much money. Okay, it's over. Let's pack up. Their dream of money has evaporated, and they'll have to start looking all over again. But it's like a needle in a haystack, since the tree has become so rare. At the 110-kilometer stage, Stefan's taxi resembles a shipwreck. His vehicle has been floundering for several hours. There's no tow truck in this region and no other SUV in sight. The passengers are increasingly frustrated. Come on, let's get the car out first, and then we'll see about the rest of the trip. There's only one solution to get them on the road again. You all have to pull. Come on, all of you. We need as much help as possible. Pull, pull. Without a word of complaint, and as if this was completely normal, a dozen or so passengers act as the tow truck. But it's all in vain. The vehicle, filled with water, weighs several tons. We can never be sure of anything. It all depends on the road. You see what's happened to us? What can we do? Just wait and trust in the driver. After 2 hours of hard work, a stroke of luck. The bridge just has to survive the crossing of the SUV. The driver of the SUV, understandably, lets Stefan do the maneuvering. How's that look? I'm going. Push, push. Stop, stop, stop. In this neck of the woods, mechanics are rare, and Stefan has learned the basics by carrying out his own repairs after every breakdown. We'll have to wait for all the water to drain out of the engine, but I'm worried about the gearbox. We'll need to unscrew everything and wait for it to dry. The first try and water comes shooting out of the engine. Try the ignition. Yeah, the fuel's leaking out. I'll stop. Yep. Stefan will cross the bridge this time. His faith convinces him that the hand of God won't strike him again. You're not scared the bridge might collapse? God will decide. But since he's already made me go in here, he's not going to make me fall off the bridge. Isn't your car too heavy? It's heavy. If you fall off the bridge, it's not the same thing. It's God's will, whatever happens. The heavens are merciful this time, and no one on the ground is upset at Stefan. Faith helps the Malagasys get through life, usually with a smile. You're going to get your ass wet. Definitely. The accident has cost them 5 hours in lost time. Stefan hopes the water hasn't damaged the engine too much, and that it will hold out for the rest of the trip. Otherwise, he'll have to reimburse everyone. After 10 days, Robert and his men still haven't found a rosewood tree that's big enough. Running out of supplies, they need to head home, but not empty-handed. A few months earlier, the army had chased the smugglers, and they had had to abandon a tree trunk. We're looking for the trunk of a rosewood tree that we hid in the forest. The wood's ready. We cut it down some time ago. They had hoped to take out several, but this one trunk will enable them to survive for a few months. There are many of us, but this is quite large. The trunk weighs about 400 kilos. Transporting wood principally depends on the length of the rope. You need to take care. If the rope's too short, you're too close to the trunk and moving it, you can injure yourself. It takes two people, one in the middle and one behind. Adjust the ropes. You need to be parallel, otherwise the trunk will slide all over the place. I don't want the trunk to make me fall. I'll let go of it if I have to. The trunk needs to be taken to the river 30 kilometers away. Moving downhill can be dangerous if the men's legs get snared in the rope. Careful, you almost squashed me when you let go of the rope like that. On a slope, the trunk could hit you because it moves so quickly, and that's certain death. It happened to one of my friends. He was hit in the back. Unfortunately, he was killed. And if someone dies, we hold a wake in the camp. And then we arrange for them to be sent home. We fold the body in two so it can fit into a rice sack. This way, guys, not too fast. Two people, one each side. No one knows for sure how many are killed in the process of smuggling precious wood. Robert estimates there are at least 3 fatalities a year. On this stretch, we need to move the wood along in the water. It's not easy, since the water's quite deep, and if the wood falls into one of the holes, it's hard work getting it out. The guys would need to dive under, get it unstuck. I swear, you need a magic formula here. The waterfall marks the end of the mountain. The men have now covered 1/3 of the journey. Made it! We're still alive. Exhausted, they'll spend the night here, in their wet clothes. All of them are hurting after the day's exertions. It's physically demanding, but when I think of the money, it makes me feel better. The other jobs in my region don't pay nearly as well. Despite their soggy night, Robert and his companions have lost none of their determination. It's taken nearly 30 hours to reach the river, but the trip isn't over yet. Ahead, there are still the rapids. Smuggling is not the only extreme way to make a living on the island. Others take even more risks to survive. The island nation is blessed with natural resources, such as spices, vanilla, precious woods, and one other that is the dream of many locals. They were discovered only 10 years ago. Some people have found wealth, others only misery or even death. It's all a matter of luck when it comes to sapphires. The mines are at Ilakaka. The area resembles a desert, and the river that runs through it has become muddy from the millions of cubic meters of earth the miners have sifted. In fording the river, our vehicle has got stuck in a waterhole. We need to get it out of there. If it continues to rain, the waters will swallow up the car. It will take considerable patience to see where the cable can be attached underneath the car in these muddy waters. Come on, lads, pull. The mining town of Masoala sprang up in just a few months. Attracted by the myth of easy money, more than 10,000 people now live crammed together in extreme poverty. Most of the stones they dig up are worth just a few dollars. However, a very large, pure sapphire can fetch anything up to $5,000 or $6,000, more than 40 times Madagascar's average wage. Whatever money they make, they rarely hang on to for long. Brothers Bako and Mazi used to be farmers. They left their miserable job hoping to strike it lucky and build themselves a big house. But their entire fortune for now is this small cabin, just 5 square meters, which the two families share. With their wives and children, 7 people altogether. Each family has its own area like this, you see. There's no bed, there's just one cooking pot, one bowl, one tureen, one basin, and this is the only sheet for everyone. We don't have enough money. His wage isn't enough. Sometimes there isn't even 1 penny. But we won't quit until God sees fit to give us a large sapphire. The brothers work for a miner who owns this mine. Their pay is less than $2 a day. If they do find a stone, they get a percentage on the sale. We start work at 7 in the morning. Then we take a break at about 2 in the afternoon. But every day we dig out about 25 sackloads of earth. Sometimes we work right up until 7 in the evening, and as soon as we get home, we fall straight asleep. The Malagasys say hell is deep in the bowels of the earth. To the miners, it begins less than 30 meters below ground. The two brothers and other workers move around in galleries, often just 60 centimeters high. Go on, dig, dig. This stone's very hard here. No, that's good here. No, I think I can break it. Oh no, the crowbar's broken. Well, I'll carry on anyway. Filling our sacks up with the dirt. The vein is good here. If we find nothing, it's because God doesn't want us to. We must beg him to help. This rat's nest is like an oven with a constant temperature of 40 degrees. The heat saps the strength of the miners who dream of a better future. This is heavy. Keep your head down if you want to get through. Being a miner also means being a contortionist. You know, there's a lot of dead around here. The work is tiring, it's dangerous. A great many of us have died because of the earth collapsing or from the lack of oxygen. It's becoming difficult here. 30 meters below ground, oxygen is scarce. None of the mine owners can afford a proper ventilation system. Fresh air is provided by the men's ingenuity. It's basic, but it works. And above all, costs virtually nothing. The problem is the tube is barely 25 meters long and doesn't reach where Bako and Masi are working. Yeah, what's happening with the air pipe? It's hot down here. Way too hot. It's difficult to work like this. I'm thirsty. Hey, up there. Send us some water. Is that the last bag? Yes, it's the last. The last bag almost cost them their lives. Careful, it's caving in. You're going to kill all of us. Here, take these bits of wood. A life fraught with danger, and all for less than $2 a day. Stefan and his passengers have reached the halfway stage, and his SUV seems to be holding up, despite 3 hours underwater at the last river crossing. The engine appears to be working well, and it seems Stefan knows how to care for his vehicle. Everybody off! At the slightest risk, he wants the car to be as light as possible to avoid straining the engine. I hate this road. We'll never get there. I can't stand it anymore. This time the ferry is more modern. The state doesn't maintain the roads, but it does subsidize the ferries, which are free, more or less. To earn a little extra, the ferryman sells off the fuel he's given for his boat. When there's none left, he taxes his clients. You there, I'm collecting fuel. We need to give some fuel in return for the ride. All the SUVs give a litre. If you don't give them, then you won't be able to leave. Before arriving at Tamatave, there are another 7 ferry crossings like this one, and most run the same scam. The voyage is exhausting, never-ending. We've got a problem, my friends. Half a dozen cars have stopped. A tree has fallen across the road, and not by chance. Someone cut it down. Didn't just fall like that. What's that mean? Well, it means they did it deliberately. Maybe they want to make a canoe. I don't care how they cut it down, but now it's blocking the road. Someone was out to steal the tree to turn it into a canoe. They must have been surprised, so they abandoned it. Stefan is worried. Getting stuck here overnight means he'll have to pay for his passengers' food and lodgings. He takes charge. Oh dear, we don't even have an axe to cut the tree. We'll have to dig. It's the only way, to go under. Given the height of some of the vehicles, they'll need to dig deep. Come on, guys, we'll take it in turns. Oof, I'm getting tired. We need some alcohol. Oh, we don't have any. There's still a lot of work to do, you know. They've been digging for 2 hours, and the task appears impossible. Providence arrives in the shape of these vehicles. Things will move along quickly now. The wood is soft. God, I hadn't planned on dying quite yet. I hope you get there tomorrow. Have a good trip. Stefan will arrive at his destination just 36 hours behind schedule, due mainly to the accident in the river, but none of his passengers will ask to be reimbursed. This is the last leg of the journey for Robert and his men, and probably the most dangerous, shooting the rapids with the trunk attached to some inner tubes. 2 men are in charge of the makeshift raft. If they fall overboard, 400 kilos of rosewood will fall on top of them. Jeannot is the pilot. I'm a pro. I know the river. I'm not afraid of it. The current is strong and has drowned more than one man transporting wood, but I'm naturally gifted. I can master nature. After the first rapids, Jeannot dismisses his co-pilot, who apparently isn't being much help. Shooting the rapids on these tubes is my speciality. I'm an expert in pneumatic transportation. The raft is virtually uncontrollable. A rock has shattered his paddle, and he uses his hands to slow down the raft. The waters abate, and Jeannot can look for another paddle. I need to remain focused on my objective, delivering the wood. It's taken 5 hours to travel downriver. The others will now take the wood as far as the coast. Once the trunk is in the canoe, it just needs to be hidden. We're putting our bags on top so that no one can see what we've got here. We mustn't get caught by the police. Smuggling is endangering the forests of Madagascar. The authorities lack the means to stop the trade, and in recent weeks, 3,000 rosewood logs have been seized in the region.